Welcome back to VibeCode. I'm your resident business and tech nerd, Jamie Burgess, and in today's episode, we're exploring a topic that often gets overlooked in conversations about AI and engineering. It's AI augmented coding can move extremely fast, but the real multiplier comes from pairing that speed with strong research and strategic intelligence. To help us unpack that, I am joined by Ronnie, who works closely with the teams behind research, strategy, and accelerated development. Thanks for joining us, Ronnie. Did you want to introduce yourself?
Thank you, Jamie, for the warm welcome. Well, my name is Ronnie Itten, and I lead the research practice within Multiplier. And I'm so excited to be a part of season 2. Season 1 was, a massive hit with lots of insight. So excited to be the part of season 2.
Cool, thank you. And yeah, I think this is a really interesting one because we are all moving fast. I am leaning more on the sort of rapid prototyping stuff. And so using AI my father used to say proper planning prevents poor performance, right? The 5 Ps. And so spending a bit of time thinking about what you're doing before you do it, I think is key. So to start us off, why does research matter so much when organizations begin adopting AI augmented coding? What does this insight play even before any code is written?
Yeah, Jamie, that's a great question to start with. And it's a big question as well. So let's unpack that in a structured way. One important factor underscoring the value of research in enterprise-wide coding is that it ensures requirements are strategically aligned with business goals rather than becoming isolated experiments. And without research, organizations risk building technically impressive solutions that don't even solve the right problems. Another area is the risk mitigation side. Nowadays, enterprises have got concerns in the regulatory, ethical, and security sides, and research helps identify potential pitfalls before a code is written. This reduces costly rewrites, or even we can say like a reputational damage that might happen at a later stage. Then from the technology side, if we look at research clarify which AI tools, frameworks, or coding assistants are fit for the purpose. For example, a financial services firm may need explainable AI models, while a creative industry may prioritize generative flexibility. So these are the major ones, but there are some important ones. One specific point is around the culture readiness, which is actually a hot topic in the market. So we need to understand that coding with AI isn't just technical. It changes workflows, it changes the team dynamics, and even the developer roles. We have actually discussed this in season 1, but I'm not going to the details right now. But in short, research helps organization understand the developer sentiments, the adoption barriers which the team has, and even the training needs that are required to start practicing those innovative steps in the team. Then to answer the second question, the role of insight before any code is written. First thing is that it helps in accurately defining the problem. So basically, directional insights ensure teams are solving the right problem. And instead of just automating code,
right,
the research might or the research insight might reveal that we need AI to reduce debugging time in legacy systems.
Yep. Super interesting. There's so much to unpack. I think let's go through it sort of systematically. I think some of the things that I'm hearing are before we even write code, we need to think, are we even taking the right tools to the job site effectively, right? So he's mentioned different models being selected there, and I think one of the things I've seen a lot of flux is, prototyping is accelerated so fast, so it has changed, and we've discussed this in previous episodes as well. The speed in which you can throw away code and rewrite has changed too. So I think how many times you do that, the iterative elements, and I think as teams do run into this like experimentation phase immediately, how often do you see that they struggle understanding not just the customer needs, but also the market fit and competitive analysis?
Yeah. So this actually gets to the heart of why research before code is so critical. So generally when teams rush into the experimentation phase, without grounding themselves into the market side or other external factors like customer or competitors, they often hit predictable roadblocks. For example, they may land up with misaligned solutions. Another challenge is that it could lead to unnecessary use of resources, and enterprises burn time and budget on POCs that don't transition into the production level.
Yeah.
Another important factor is that creates competitive blind spots. Without competitor analysis, teams risk reinventing the wheel or launching something inferior to the existing solutions, and even they miss opportunities to differentiate as well. And if you take it from the regulatory and the ethical side, which is actually a concern for most of the enterprises, moving too fast can overlook compliance, and
Sure.
create bias. There will be lots of data privacy issues, and as I mentioned earlier, enterprises then face the costly remediation or reputational damage, maybe at a later phase.
Yeah, no, that's super interesting. I think there's again so much in there. Like some of the regulatory stuff is really interesting. Like I, again, just confirming, like I'm more on the rapid prototyping side, so I'll go in with a customer. And before, I would have used my technology knowledge, listened to the customer, figured out their problem, and then tried to package that up in some sort of packaging, docs or whatever, spec docs, and handed that to the engineering side of the house to go figure out how to build it. But now with rapid prototyping, it's much easier for me to build them some sort of semi-functioning solution that they can kind of play with. And I think then we need to have this research that's done beforehand to figure out, well, actually, what makes the tool longevity? What makes the tool last around? Like, I've seen so many times people build something, especially in the giant tech companies, they build something and then somebody else will come along and build something again because it's so fast now to build stuff. Then you end up just this constant churn of new tools. And so as we look at specifically along the market and sort of the industry analysis, where do you think the most value lies with the research around, making sure that what we're building at any time is providing potentially repeatable value, but mostly it's aligned with industry expectations, etc.?
Yeah. So this is where actually research connects directly to the value creation side, and that's an interesting area to be discussed. There are a number of areas, but first it helps in identifying high impact use cases. That's so important because there are a number of use cases you can see in the market. You can see with the help of the generative AI tools. But what are the real use cases which are solved by AI, and what are the high impact use cases? So that is something which is very relevant, and that can be easily found with the help of deep dive research. And this varies from sectors, and this varies from the use scenario, the use of scenarios as well. Second, it helps in customer centric prioritization. So like what customers actually care about, whether it's the speed or reliability, or even cost reduction that matters the most. This this again, varies from customer segments. As I mentioned, taking an example of healthcare, the value lies in error reduction and compliance. But if you take a sector like retail and consumer goods, speed to market and personalization are the areas which that matters most.
Yeah.
Then research helps in competitive differentiation. So intelligence about competitors shows where they are investing and where gaps remain. And AI augmented development can then be positioned to leapfrog rivals. Offering smarter developer tools, or faster release cycles, or even a more secure coding practice.
Yeah, and these all sound like huge, at least on the surface, sound like huge projects and undertakings to do. But obviously, AI is accelerating this research element of itself. Microsoft have released some frontier tools they call like the research, and I think for me, there's two areas, as you mentioned, about customer understanding that I think are quite important. And I'll separate them into two separate questions. I think one is sometimes the customer has some blind spots too, and they have this need, and they have this short-term need, but they're really not thinking about the future of the industry and the trends. And so I think, first of all, how do you bring, actually maybe three questions, how do you bring trend analysis and like market direction and help the customer steer something that they may not have initially seen, and then work with the customer to decide if they actually want to include that or not. So let's start there. I think let's have a look at how do you use the market definitions and the market trends to help the customers. Sometimes and I'm sure you're aware, sometimes customers come with this notion of what they want to build, and sometimes they have half a notion. Like, I want to build a tool to solve the problem X. Like, how can we do this? And I think in both examples, it needs good research. But how do you see the trends and the analytical side of the house helping with that?
Absolutely. So this is where research turns into strategic foresight. For example, trend analysis you mentioned, and a research focusing on emerging tech. All these help teams avoid chasing, I would say, shiny objects, and instead, focus on opportunities that truly matter.
Yeah.
So one important fact is that it helps in spotting and in distinguishing signals and noises in the space.
Yeah.
So basically, trend analysis helps in distinguishing short-lived hype, from sustainable shifts. A typical example is a team might see a buzz around a new AI framework, but research reveals limited enterprise adoption. That's again further signaling a caution in that area. So research has that potential to figure out what adds value, what is necessary at that particular point, whether it's in line with the broader strategy, whether we are right in the market, whether the speed at which we are moving is having a sustainable pace, all those things. And at the same time, research also helps in mapping things to business value, and that's something very important, because if all these methodologies we leverage in research, like the trend analysis or emerging tech research, whether it aligns with the core business priorities. Sometimes a client might be having a priority on efficiency. Sometimes innovation is one of their priority. Maybe customer experience can be another. So getting it aligned to the core business priorities, and if a trend doesn't connect to measurable outcomes, it need to be deprioritized.
Yeah.
So that is something very important. So mapping things to business value, and correctly identifying the signals and noises in the space is so much important.
Yeah. Okay.
Apart from that, trend analysis and emerging tech research helps teams choose the right investments to stay competitive, or even differentiate in the market. And the research helps or informs when to act, and the teams can weigh opportunity versus liability before committing resources in that particular space.
So that's great. I think to summarize, then I think what you're saying is it drives focus, deliberate focus of resource, and also, everyone's running around with their hair on fire right now because AI is so fast and the expectation of everyone is increasing, and so no one's ever going to be like, hey, let's just take the next 2 months to go and do some real insightful research into everything. They're like, we need something immediate now. And so what I'm seeing is, with proper research, whether it's in-house or whether it's through part of the work that a client does with us, is it allows them to look up and in a longer time horizon to see what's coming, to make better choices earlier, so they don't hit these icebergs that they'll otherwise necessarily sail into. And you touched on this, which I love, by the way. The big shiny object, or the new shiny object, is something that really worries me all the time, because there's always, hey, there's this thing, now we need to put AI in everything. But AI doesn't have to be in everything. AI has to just help us solve, it's a tool to help us solve problems faster and more efficiently, etc. And I think I've seen a lot of engineering groups suddenly shift focus to the new shiny object. And in a previous episode, we discussed this idea that developers and engineers are now able to achieve a lot more with AI augmented coding. So they're making a lot more decisions, and obviously this is a contentious subject about what decisions they should be making versus product decisions versus how the engineering is done. So how does research and specifically customer insights, help determine what is exactly worth building and keeping on the track? You said measurable results. What other things do you think are really important to help making sure that the focus stays there?
Yeah. So generally, AI can churn out features and prototypes at a lightning pace. We all know that, but customer insights are the filter that separates what is possible from what is valuable. Okay, and validating the real needs and prioritizing the impact areas are very important. And it also helps in avoiding feature creeps. As you know, AI can generate endless variations, but customer insights prevent overbuilding it. And that's very important, because sometimes we might not be building the right solution or the right. We might not be using it in a right way. There are situations where we take the wrong path, and that's when research helps, and one of such use cases specifically to avoid this feature creeping that might happen in most of the cases. And there are areas where research helps guide the design and usability side. So we need to understand how customers actually interact with the tools. Sometimes a prototype may function technically, but if customers find it confusing, it won't succeed. It won't be work in the market.
Yep.
So that is actually very important, and ensuring a market fit is also very crucial. This is actually a point which we discussed. When we evaluate things to market realities, it's so important to understand these insights from customers to figure it out, like what is valuable for them and what is not. So at a high level, if you ask me, AI gives teams the speed to explore possibilities, but customer insights provide the wisdom to choose priorities. That should
that's a very poignant in that with AI you can open a lot more doors all at once, because AI agents can go do it for you, but really your research is what helps you pick which door to go through and make the path forward. I think that's a really good way of putting it. I like that. And I think I've seen people posting online like, oh, I just have agents mock up 3 or 4 different versions of the app, and then if you think then each one then has its own 3 or 4 versions, and each one, you've now got this wild like plinko of what some customers or some users might want, this one and that one, and then you've created this like pseudo complexity. Whereas if you listen to the customer needs and you put in good customer feedback loops in to feed back into the product, to feed back into the solution, I think that loop and that heartbeat or the pulse of the customer is like this, it's so important, and often it is so overlooked. We touched on this before, so let's dive in a little bit deeper around the competition. And everyone now has AI. Everyone is now moving faster. Everyone is now breaking things, but they're also adding new features, like you said, at a lightning pace. So as competitors adopt AI, how does competitive research help organizations differentiate and focus or keep their USPs, but also respond faster to emerging trends?
Yeah, so the competitive research is so important. The point I discussed, because understanding what competitors prioritize, understanding what what is readily available in the market, helps you distinguish or come up with a new idea, a new area through which you can stay relevant in the market. And if you look at it from the customer angle also, sometimes the competitors may not be providing solution that adds value to them. So you can get it from the customer feedbacks, those kind of informations, and competitors oriented research helps you set the right solutions, specific to different sectors, specific to different use cases. And getting in the feedback loops helps team validate what is relevant in the market and what you are offering. So yeah, that's point from my side.
Yeah. So I'm hearing that augmented coding can help us move faster, understand, or at least you can bring in the knowledge of the insight and the research that you've got. You can bring in the knowledge of your various policies across the organization. But do you have some examples of where AI augmented coding and good research has worked successfully together, and what does that how does that how they have played a role in what the software development lifecycle looks like for a solution?
Yeah. So in that context, this is actually a very sweet spot. When research and enterprise web coding converge, organization move from building fast to building something very smart. Okay, and first thing is that if you take both sides, research sets the direction, so it defines the problems worth solving, the customer needs, the market gaps and compliance requirements, whereas AI ensure AI generated prototypes are aligned with strategy, rather than just random experiments. Then from the exploration part, if we look at AI augmented coding turns research insights into rapid prototypes, simulations and feature variations. And instead of months of development, teams can test ideas in days, but again varied by researcher priorities. Then research provides validation mechanism. That's something very important, like through customer interviews, usability testing, competitive benchmarking, etc. And then AI enables faster iteration based on that feedback, refining prototypes until they meet the real world needs. Then from the business strategy angle, it creates strategic differentiation. So research highlights research generally highlights where competitors are weak or strong, and AI coding lets team quickly build differentiators like the unique features or integrations or user experience that capitalize
Right.
on those insights. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess it's interesting when you're looking at building a solution, and we do all types of solutions, whether it's a internal customer solution to help their internal organization, be better, think faster, act more efficiently, all those good things. Or it could be a productizable solution that client is then selling or using with their consumers. And, everyone comes with a bit of a bias as what they think the solution needs to be. And then if you went straight to coding, you could then, because of AI, you could build again and again and again and again. And you probably, in the same time you could build 5 iterations maybe as it would take you to do the research. But, what you're saying is there's that sweet spot of like, you could get to that right version that also includes good understanding of what the competitors don't do and better understanding of which, direction to go in and the industry trends that are coming. So the trade-off is, do you build a bunch of things really quickly that kind of feels like throwing spaghetti at the wall, but something might stick, you might get lucky, you might find something that the customer wants, but it still doesn't have that, special something that will make it a long-term solution and really fits a gap that doesn't exist right now? Or do you spend more time doing the research before you put, fingers on keyboard, so that the thing you're building is a lot more sticky, it's a lot more, connected with customer needs and demands? So I think it's an interesting trade-off, and I've not really thought of it quite like that before. I mean, there's a reason PMs have marketers to go and do the qual analysis and all this sort of stuff in the beginning, because they need to make sure that what they're building actually they're trying to solve an actual problem, and it's not just something that's been overthought. So I guess one thing then before we close is, and this has been a great chat, and I've loved the insight that you provided. So I'd love to get an idea of how you would talk, or what message you would give to leaders who are thinking about the pressures of what AI augmented coding is bringing to their business and how they have to respond so much faster. What's the one takeaway that you would leave the leaders of organizations thinking with, okay, research can do, how do you think about research? What's your one view?
Yeah, so that's a tough question, but still, one takeaway I would like to leave is, we all know that AI accelerates execution, but research is what that ensures relevance, and together they create a cycle where insight drives direction, and AI delivers speed, further ensuring innovation is both strategic and sustainable.
Right.
And leaders should see research and AI not as separate disciplines, but as partners in innovation. And the organization that thrive will be those that move fast in the right direction, guided by research insights and then accelerated by AI usage.
Yeah, great. And I've said I've very much enjoyed this conversation because it's given me a lot of food for thought too. As I said, I've mentioned I go to customers a lot, hear their problems, and so I will try and solve the problems, but it's not a full holistic. It's okay, we just have a short-term need, here's a short-term solution, and then maybe we go through MVP and then start looking at the research at like phase 1. Really, we should be doing a lot more of the research. AI is accelerating that too, so the research helps the industry analysis, but realistically, doing some deep insights, it really truly gives the organizations a lot more clarity in what they're investing in and the direction they should be taking, and assurances too, because if a customer's going out to bid for 2 or 3 different partners to go build something, the customer should be looking at what vision is being provided from the research they've gleaned, rather than just, oh yeah, we can build the solution for you. As you mentioned, regulatory compliance, things coming down the pipe, emerging technologies. I was working with a fintech partner client engagement, and there was a bunch of regulatory stuff coming around AI that hadn't even been added because the proper research wasn't done. So they would have had to have shifted their code base halfway through to accommodate this. Good research identified that. It was a very easy fix early on, a small pivot, and it made a massive difference in how functional that solution was and how quickly it could get to market. So we've clearly seen how when these two things come together, it does make things a lot more intentional and certainly more impactful. I want to take a second to thank you, Ronnie, for your insights, and everyone who's watching as well. And so join us for the next one as we talk about how teams turn those research-informed ideas into market-ready solutions using strategy and roadmaps and various different accelerated solutions. So we'll see you there. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.